How to write a radio ad that works. Today we're talking about radio, and to be more specific, we're talking about radio advertising. I don't think we should be recording this episode here.
What do you mean here? This is where we record our episodes.
I got an idea.
Jude, what are we doing in a car?
Oh, but wait a minute, I don't want to drive. I think you should drive.
What is wrong with you?
Isn't it better though? This is the right environment for us to be talking about radio ads. You know why?
Why?
Statistically, most radio advertising is listened to in a car.
Why am I the one who's driving?
Because I'm the one talking this time.
Where am I
And it's
going?
your car. Yeah, as you can see, we're having a lot of fun recording this particular episode. And it should be, because we're talking about something that's really fun, and that's writing a radio ad. So, Mr. Chauffeur,
Where are we going?
anyway,
All right.
follow the sun.
Good old stick shift, baby.
When you think that something as intangible as design and communications can't really affect your bottom line,
You usually end up with marketing and advertising tools that don't help you inherently mitigate your business risk.
that's what this podcast is about.
A behind-the-scenes look at how we go about doing what we do, mitigating business risk. I'm Jude Lazaro.
And I'm Mark Lazaro. And you are watching our weekly video podcast.
Radio is an awesome medium to begin with. It's proved itself to be timeless, and in today's
Especially in today's digital.
Yeah, in today's digital realm, it still exists and it's relevant.
Yeah.
And one more awesome thing about it is the fact that when you compare it to other, above-the-line media like print or even outdoor, it is relatively cheaper to invest in as a
Right.
medium. But that's also its biggest weakness, according to me, because most companies who invest in radio kind of spend all their budget in acquiring the media, and they don't put aside enough of money to actually create a good, radio spot that can go out there and be broadcast and make a difference.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Because, we've come across a bunch of situations where they either spend kind of like a whole lot of their production budget on other assets, and radio kind of gets sidetracked.
Also, a lot of companies, smaller companies, only do a radio campaign because they realize that it's something that's reachable in their budget, because they
Right.
could not have done an outdoor campaign, or
Right.
they could not have done a print campaign,
Right.
and so they spend all their money on getting the radio campaign, and it doesn't help that most radio channels grease the transaction with a free ad,
Right,
which,
right,
as we know, most free ads.
And I think when you say free, you're talking about in-house production.
yeah, the radio channel itself gives them a free ad, which,
But then I don't know. Somehow I look at that as a positive, because most of the time when we've played in the radio space, I mean a good bunch of the radio ads that you're competing with are fuzz. If you know what I mean.
Correct.
They kind of all sound like they all
Yeah,
sound
there's this
pretty much the same.
cacophony, they all sound the same, it's a bit of a
Yeah.
drone, and it's
Yeah.
this loud noise. So actually it is easier to stand out in a market like that.
Yeah. Wow, we hit traffic.
Which brings me to the fact that on this episode, we're going to be focusing on the radio ads that we did for the I Love Traffic campaign,
Which we spoke about last week.
which we spoke about last week, by
So
the way.
go back and watch that episode if you didn't catch it. We're going into a tunnel! We're coming out of a tunnel!
This week we're talking about the radio ads for I Love Traffic, and we're using them to illustrate a couple of, pointers that you need to use if you're writing a radio ad. And we think we've kind of developed that over time, and we've kind of codified it into a set of things you can do to make your radio ads work and really stand out amidst the noise that radio advertising is known to be.
Okay, so let me break that down. So what you're saying is radio is this awesome medium, and because it's usually cheaper, you kind of end up cheapening out on the product that you put on it. And you're saying, no, there's more potential there.
Absolutely.
All right, so how are we going to break this down? What are we talking about?
So I think before we move on to point one, I'd like to introduce you to one of the ads from the actual campaign.
Right.
So I'm going to figure out how that works in Mark's audio system.
Wow, what a fantastic drive. Don't you just love being stuck in traffic? I mean, look around you. It's like a cross-section of humanity for you to observe. Look left. This is the best time to catch someone picking their nose. Now look right. I bet there's someone on their phone, despite how illegal or unsafe it is. We people are amazing, and in traffic we feel safe, unobserved. So we revert to our uninhibited state. Amazing, huh? I love traffic!
If you'd like to smack this guy in the head, I don't blame you. But if you hate traffic as much as we do, you should buy one of our homes, like Orchid Woods, a 2 and 3 bedroom apartment complex on Hennur Main Road. So if you work at Manyata Tech Park or any of the neighboring workspaces, you'll avoid traffic and people picking their noses. Just Google Orchid Woods to know more. Developed by Goyal & Co. in partnership with the Haryana Group.
Yeah, so that's one of the ads from the campaign, and I wanted to play it so there's context to my first point. And the first point is, don't be lazy, write for the format. And let me set that up a bit. Mark and I have said this repeatedly on these podcasts. We don't mean to be preachy, and this is one point that I kind of solidified in my head because I have been lazy in my writing. You know, there have been campaigns we've done where we've developed a very strong advertising kit, and there's been a very strong video component, like a very good video ad.
Right.
And we've gone through a lot of work in developing that ad. There's a great great soundtrack. It's a nice vocabulary, and I've been lazy and just taken that same construct and just directly ripped it into radio.
Either for the lack of time or because of it was.
Sometimes it's a lack of time, but I look back at it and regret those moments because there could have been so much more we could have done if we wrote for the format. Oh,
That guy's brakes need some work, bro.
BMTC.
Yeah, once you've heard these ads on radio, you immediately remember the TV spot or the ad that you watched on YouTube or whatever, and it comes back.
Yeah.
But
I look back at it and I regret being lazy. I should have done something with it and tweaked it even ever so slightly to suit the format better.
Okay.
And which brings us to a word which
this guy's a little pissed with me.
which brings us to a word that's quite relevant in this particular point: copy format. Copy format is something that we've heard as a phrase being used from the time we were kids, because Dad would go on and on about it. The relevance and the importance of copy format, which is basically writing to suit a medium.
The best explanation I can come up with for copy format is you're kind of being native to the medium. You're kind of using all of the limitations of the medium, or you're playing into you're playing into the sweet spot of the medium. And you're tweaking the concept, the overall concept. You're kind of tweaking
to suit the medium, yeah. And so one aspect of the medium is that, like I mentioned earlier, we are most of the time you're listening to a radio ad in a car. Yeah? Statistically, it's always been proven that that's the case. The video ad, if you remember from last episode, we had this bunch of people in a cab, a typical IT cab, and so the obvious thing, if I were to translate that into radio ad, is we take along a skit approach to it, where there's a bunch of people in a car. But we decided not to do that because we wanted there to be, a bend to the format, and we realized that Vishal, the main protagonist, is a strong character and an annoying character. And yes, there's this brilliant connect to the fact that we're talking about something that's involving a car, traffic. So we decided to make him this voice that's in your head.
Right.
And he's someone sitting in the car with you in this extremely twilight zone, where you're stuck in traffic and there's this guy who is in your ear talking. He's in your dashboard talking about traffic. And if you listen to the rest of the ads as we play them throughout this particular episode, you'll notice that from a sound design point of view, you're in a muffled car. You can hear traffic and it's kind of distant, and you'll hear him push down the windows and the traffic bleed in. So we've kind of
just replicated the
space that you're in. Yeah. So that's writing for the format. We've basically taken into account that you're in a car, and we've placed this guy in the car with you. Personally, as a writer, I love writing for radio because when you're presented with a blank sheet and you're wondering where do you start, there's so much that you can do because it's radio, and there are no fetters.
What do you mean?
You're dealing with the realm of audio.
Right.
And you can create anything. You can place somebody on the moon. You can place somebody in the middle of a desert, in the middle of a raging ocean, and it's possible because it's not going to really affect your production value. Yeah, so before we move on to the second point, I'd like to play you another ad.
I'm going to hypnotize you to love traffic. Close your eyes. I can feel your mind bending, caving to the power of my voice. It's not working. It's not working!
Of course it's not working. We all hate traffic. Just buy one of our homes and stay close to work. Just Google Goyle Bangalore to find us.
Yeah. So again, a second example from the same campaign, and you'll notice again how we've used sound design there. You know, you should go beyond the boring obvious place of having just people in a sound booth with a soundtrack underneath them.
Yeah.
You should think out of the box, and that's what this next point is about: harnessing the power of human imagination. That sounds pretty deep, but to be specific.
Hey Jude, I think you're about to get the full traffic experience, bro.
Oh yeah, we are.
Harnessing the power
Of
the
human imagination. You know,
Okay.
say that with a voiceover. Yeah, anyway. But it is actually the deepest part of today's podcast because that's the meat of radio writing. And as a writer, I enjoy writing for radio because it opens up, you know, all the possibilities. Because it's the power of audio, right? Even if you look at a blockbuster Hollywood movie, and if you mute the movie,
It's almost like a production budget amplifier.
absolutely, because audio is such an important aspect to storytelling, even in movie making.
You need a good sound designer, but nonetheless, yes. I
Yeah,
agree
yeah.
with you.
Sound design is an important aspect there, but you need to write out of the box. You need to start thinking and using, you know, the lack of fetters that this particular medium has to create interesting content. And that's kind of the meat of this particular point. You can do so much with it.
You know, 50% of a movie is the sound, and radio is like that. In terms of, it's a similar platform. You've got the 50% of the film without the visual, and you're just swapping in human imagination.
Absolutely, which brings me to something else. How many times have we heard someone say, "I think the book was better than the movie"?
Yeah.
That's because the human imagination is, you can't beat it. Right?
Yeah.
Any visual that you try and represent will always be lacking on some front or the other, because what you imagine is, you know, it's
No, but also-
specific to you.
Yeah.
Your
It
version
is.
of it is unique.
Yeah.
But let's move to the third point, which is you need to have multiple conversations with the market, with your listeners, not one. And what do I mean by this? First of all, limit the amount of communication points you have per radio spot. Keep it down to, you know, a minimum of 3. Don't go beyond 3. If you can do 2, all the better. But don't try and pack in 50 different points into one ad. That's when you come up with those, you know, those radio ads which sound like a rap competition.
Yeah. You're basically saying don't put all of your pressure on one
radio
ad,
spot.
on one radio spot.
Because all emphasis is no emphasis. Nobody's going to remember what you're talking about. You may ask, so how do I have a longer conversation? Well,
Stagger it.
yeah, you stagger it. The fact is that most people are stuck in a car for at least an hour. That means you have at least 3 opportunities to hit them in different ad breaks.
Depending on the radio station.
Yeah, depending on the radio station.
But even on a single ad break, you could pop in 2 or 3 ads and get that flavor.
Because you rather have, you know, 4 conversations in an hour than one conversation that's so packed up that nobody's going to remember what you tried to say. And I'm going to play 2 ads in quick succession now. Yeah, one's a 30-seconder and one's a 60-seconder. And you'll see how we've limited the amount of communication points in each of them.
Sorry. Rumblers.
Rumblers. Yeah, but so that's the point. I'm going to play them. Let me...
What I love about radio is the traffic updates. They actually tell you where there is traffic. It's like a game. They tell me where to go and I head there. Like a treasure hunt. Apparently, they tell us this so that we avoid it. We can't avoid traffic. We are traffic. Oh, I love it. I love traffic. It's so exciting.
If you feel the urge to thump this guy against a brick wall, don't worry. It's absolutely normal. If you hate traffic as much as we do, you should buy one of our homes, like Orchid Lakeview, a 2- and 3-bedroom apartment complex at Bellandur Lake. So if you work at EcoSpace or BTV or any of the neighboring workspaces, you'll avoid traffic and traffic updates. Just Google Orchid Lakeview to know more. Developed by Goyle & Co. in partnership with the Haryana Group.
It was a 60-seconder. If you listen to that, you'll notice the amount of communication points we had in a 60-seconder, which is a long ad for radio. We introduced you to this obnoxious character, Vishal, and in one of his acts of annoyance, we even brought in the voiceover guy who kind of reminded you that don't worry, it's fine if you feel like throttling or smashing this guy's head in. And he went on to tell you about specific projects and the specific locations of these projects for the client. So he placed the product.
He covered a lot.
Yeah, he covered a lot. And the most important thing is he told you who this company is and who's behind this ad.
Yep.
So a lot of communication points in a 1 minute. But actually, if you break it down, it's just about 3.
Yeah.
Again, it's just about 3. So let's play a shorter ad that would have been played in the same hour that a person was driving.
I'm not alone, okay? You know who else loves traffic? Radio station heads! If there was no traffic, how would they pay the bills? Huh? Traffic employs people. I love it.
That's rubbish. We all hate traffic, right? So you should buy one of our homes and stay close to work. Just Google Goyle Bangalore to find us.
Yeah. So that's the point. Have multiple conversations. You can have an extremely complex story rendered.
Like the shorter one was just a reminder that it's basically gaining mind space. The second one, the small one, you just chose not to try and sell the product.
Yeah.
You stuck with I'll keep the entertainment going. And I'll remind you about who.
And remind you about who did it. Yeah. It's again, and so these things can be interlaced, and you can have a very complex conversation with your audience by having multiple radio spots.
You get pretty creative with how you spread it up, depending on what the idea was.
You can play with the size of radio spot. You can have small, tiny ones which kind of intersperse very frequently, and a longer one that has more meat in it. You can have a pretty deep and rich conversation with the audience. And if you keep the entertainment level going, they'll be waiting for the next one to come.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? I'm feeling a little homesick.
What do you mean?
I think it's time to get back to the office.
Oh no, dude, we're in the middle of traffic. You can't snap right now.
Oh, we've swapped places. I'll do it again.
No. Don't snap your finger. I'm fine here. That's my iPad. That's my car. I can't act.
So let's get back to the meat of things. Point 4 is pretty critical to your messaging and what you actually end up, putting into your ad. And the reason is we need to understand what kind of medium radio is to start with. Radio is a message reinforcement medium, not a call for action medium. What do I mean by that? If it needs to be used in a suite of media. It's that one medium which kind of enables you to add more layers of icing to your messaging, so that people, they see you maybe on a digital ad or maybe in a theater, and then they hear your radio ad as well. So you've kind of hit them in multiple points: at work, at home, on the drive to work. That's what radio is good for. Yes, there are anomalies where people have had, people calling up based off a radio ad, but it's not the norm. You don't want your viewer, your audience, to be, writing down a number while they're driving. It's not the job of radio. It's a reinforcement medium for messaging.
Don't expect someone to listen to your radio ad and call immediately. I mean, there's some subset of them who'll do that.
Yeah. But that's a very small subset.
Yeah, and in today's day and age, people are going to remember you, and as far as memory is concerned, they probably remember a URL or your brand name and then just Google you.
Yeah.
So you don't need to force
a
a 10-digit phone number in there.
Correct.
No matter how simple it is and how much money you paid for that unique number.
Yeah. No,
you don't need to.
If the outcome that you want from a campaign is a call for action outcome, you should not be doing a radio only campaign.
Yeah.
That'll be money wasted. If you take this seriously, it now reduces the burden of putting lengthy phone numbers, email IDs, which first of all, take up so much of precious secondage. And then you end up cramming all that stuff into an ad and ruining the entire experience and the entire, absorption level of that ad.
On multiple occasions, we've taken radio ads and actually suggested a Google search term.
And we've used it multiple times. It's a hack that you can try yourself.
Basically, work with your web team and make sure that your SEO is solid for a specific search term, and boom, or a specific keyword.
Your show will land up at your site.
Yeah, ensure that, and that's where the connectivity will fall in, and then just offer for that as the call for action.
No, because that plays into the behavioral patterns of most of our web experiences. A lot of people don't write .com at the end of a URL that they know.
They don't.
You keep googling
I
stuff.
don't.
Yeah, even to our own website, we sometimes just click in Lazaro
and boom. If you think about this from a strategic point of view, since most people who are listening to your radio ad are kind of possibly stuck in a car, and for obvious safety reasons, you don't want them interacting with your brand at that point. But if you're going to hand off from that point, it possibly works in your favor to hand off to a rich experience. Which is most probably a web experience, a rich experience after that. Instead of a phone call, disclaimer, this may not work for all brands.
The benefit of understanding this is you'll end up with cleaner ads which are simpler and to the point and are less crowded. So let's move on to the last point for this particular episode, which is extremely important. Budget well for a radio campaign ad, and I mean the creative aspect of it. A lot of people take this very lightly, and the entire industry has been affected by this. We both on multiple occasions have gone and done voiceovers, or we've sung on particular radio jingles that we've not produced. We were literally called in as talent. The industry kind of has treated this as and it's because of the, I need to blame the client here, because of the fact that nobody's willing to spend money on this. The only way to produce a product at those measly budgets is to create an assembly line of sorts, where ads are churned out every half an hour. And there is that much you can do in that short amount of time. How much thought can you put in half an hour or 1 hour effort? You go in I remember going in as talent, and I'm in there, I do something, 10 seconds I'm out, my job's done. On the contrary, a lot of the voice artists, when they come and work for us, they're shocked by the fact that they're stuck in studio for 6 hours at times. And whenever there's a new artist who's never worked with us who comes in, I tell them that. I say, we're painful characters, we're going to have you in there doing this 100 times. And they're like, yeah. And when they're there, they realize, what we meant. Because you should be treating a radio ad with the same amount of respect that you would a video ad. You need to be going through auditions and rehearsals and a large amount of takes, because like we mentioned earlier, it's the equivalent and sometimes even a stronger medium than video. And you need to give it that respect. And the only way you can give it that respect is you have the budget, because nobody's going to do that and go through all that effort if you lump a tiny budget on it.
Here are some business reasons that I might be able to offer. Just say you spent $100 on radio secondage. If you take $2 out of that as a budget and throw it at a radio ad, you still end up spending $100. Right? What's the value that you're getting out of it? Paint, kind of an alternate situation where you spend that additional amount of money. Say you take it from $2 and make it $4, or you make it $5. Those additional 3 rupees are and can, if you have spent them on the right people, if you've gone out and found the right talent, those additional 3 rupees can literally double or quadruple the value of the 100 that you're pouring into the secondage. The second thing that I was thinking about is a conversation that I've had with multiple kind of radio station heads. We'd end up discussing this point where clients would come in and want to be able to spend the smallest budget to test whether radio was an effective medium for their brand, and they would literally set that experiment up to fail because they would take the least, the path of least resistance, which is spend the smallest amount of money on the ad, spend the smallest amount of money on secondage. So you get your strategy wrong, and then you blame the medium, which means you've just shut yourself out of a really effective medium, and you would potentially not understand the value of it. And we've been called in at least more than once to sit down and brainstorm with radio stations where they're saying, listen, how do we explain the value of this? How do we tell them that this is where they're going wrong, and it's a structural mistake that you're making. So what you're approaching it with is the wrong inputs and then expecting the wrong outputs. So your KPIs are just gone. They're just off the, you can't expect decent KPIs from that. The point where you say, all of this has been speaking about a radio ad that works, and a radio ad that works is something that makes you stand out. Yeah, there's differentiation that you can build into it, and these are some of the best tips that we can throw out there because we use them all the time. As a matter of fact, this is not something that we kind of preemptively put down as a list. This is literally us looking at what we've done and said, how did we get there?
I have one last thing to leave you with, which is one more radio spot from the same campaign. And this particular one is the kind of one that you would probably listen to and say, what were those guys smoking when they wrote this? And in particular, it's got a lot of personal puns. Vivek Madan calling you out. You added a bit in this ad about the bread that was priceless, has me still laughing at it. So we're going to leave you with this last radio spot. There you go.
Jam is sweet and nice. You can eat it plain. If it was such a bad thing, they would have called it traffic upamavu, not traffic jam. How can you not love a good traffic jam? It's inbred. I love traffic! It's so exciting.
Okay then. If you hate traffic as much as me, you should buy one of our homes and stay close to work. Just Google Goyal Bangalore to find us.
On that note, don't forget to, if you enjoyed this video, like it first of all, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and tell your friends about us.
Yeah, no, actually tell your friends about us is something that we've been throwing away, but I have a serious request here. If you like this episode and if you made it this far into it, that means there was some value in it. Please share it with one person that you think, one business owner or one marketing head or someone in a company that you think is a friend of yours but would definitely benefit from it. We want you to do that, just one person.
I miss Mario.
Yeah. Dude, do you know where we are?
You know which song is stuck in my head? I think because of Elena. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round.
Did we come up this flyover for the second time?
Wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town.